Hello, Writing Workshop. I apologize for the lateness of this video. It's been a kind of a tough weekend for me, and I'm sure some of you are kind of in a similar boat that I am with all these changes regarding our school format once again. As such, I want to start today's lesson with a little devotional, and then we'll do a little bit of grammar review today too. Our devotional verses are the Great Commission that Jesus gives to his disciples after he resurrects. Shortly before he ascends into heaven, he says, "Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." It's that very last sentence right there. It's the very last part of verse 20 that was kind of on my lips as I woke up this morning. It's that promise that we need to hold on to when times are tough. I am with you always. Christ is with us always to the very end of the age, the end of days, the end of time, in a time that's worse than 2020, in a time that's more difficult than this coronavirus pandemic that we're in right now. Christ says that he is with you always. He's with you when you're missing 15 assignments at the end of a semester. He is with you when you are staring at a grading mountain. I'm preaching to myself here. When you're staring at a grading mountain, not sure how you're going to tackle it. He is with you when it seems like the odds are stacked against you. He's also with you in the positive times too. He is with you when you're celebrating. He's with you when you're relaxing. It's just a reminder that I feel like you're facing what you're facing alone. We're reminded that Christ stands with us to strengthen us, to encourage us, to cry with us when we feel like we just need a shoulder to cry on. He's there for us too. That's my prayer for you today, that if you're feeling low, I know that I kind of flip-flop between feeling like I can do this and feeling like I can't, but when you're feeling low, that you know that Christ stands with you to lift you back up, to encourage you, and to help you to do your best. It's a reminder that our purpose in life is to serve him. It is to make disciples. It is to make sure that Christ's name is known, and he empowers us to that very aim, no matter what the world looks like. All right, we're back in the Day 38 folder right here. So a couple of items right here. We'll look at our agenda in just a moment. Devotional review, you're watching it right now. We'll do a little bit of grammar review to move us forward towards the final test here in a moment. Notice I moved your analysis essay outline in here. It is due by midnight tonight, so please make sure you're at least outlining your ideas for your analysis essay. For those of you who haven't selected a text yet, again, it's a Day 34 journal entry, or send me a message to let me know what piece you're going to be analyzing, because I do want to start cranking through outlines tomorrow. Let's look at our agenda. So once again, you're watching our review. I'll get to that grammar in just a moment. Your analysis essay is due tonight, like I mentioned. So please get it done and submitted. As a reminder, you do not need to write your outline in complete sentences. The rest of the week is devoted to drafting the full essay and completing missing work. So one thing I'm doing with the change of school format again is I'm going to be cutting out journals, at least for this week. I'm thinking about doing one next week, but we'll see what we do with that. I kind of want to make sure I give you enough time to complete the semester strong. So the rest of the week is all for drafting the essay. It's for completing other missing work. It gives me a chance to grade other missing work too. Now let's take a look at that grammar review, and we'll finish from there. Day 38 devotional review. You're watching our video, and we see our grammar review document. I'm just going to click view to look at it in another tab. All right, so we got our grammar review document right here. This is the same one that I've been referencing in last week's lesson videos. So if you haven't looked back at those just to get a review of the very beginning of the semester, you can. Easiest way is in my YouTube channel, Mr. Hantak MLHS. Look for the Writing Workshop playlist from there. One thing I would note right here is with our change in format, once again, I'll probably bump back our practice test one day to Tuesday the 15th. I'm thinking Monday the 14th is actually going to be the last day for literary analysis essays. I'm going to have to bump that back a little bit. But that week, next week, is all dedicated to studying and revising essays. The final grammar test will be available actually starting on the 19th, so I'll give it a week to review right there. Like I said, in last week's videos, we covered basic usage, we covered commas, we covered semicolons, and we covered colons, so kind of really the first month of the semester or so, all the punctuation that we learned. In today's, I just want to review the basics of apostrophes, quotation marks, and sentence structure. So apostrophes, we know, are used to show possession. Add an apostrophe s if the noun is singular, s apostrophe for most plural possessives. I say most because Any sort of plurals that don't already end in S are just going to take apostrophe S, like the singular. Children's hospital is REN apostrophe S, even though children is plural. Geese would be geeses. The geese's eggs were all stolen by the foxes. Those kinds of things. One thing I would note in that sentence that I just shared, we wouldn't use an apostrophe in foxes. So we don't use apostrophes to form plurals. They're only used to show possession. There are a few exceptions to when it comes to proper nouns. Some proper nouns that already end in S don't take the extra apostrophe S. The name Jesus is a great example of that. Jesus' words are true instead of Jesus's words are true. The tough rule with apostrophes is when you have multiple possessives. So when you do have multiple possessive nouns in the same sentence, apostrophe placement depends on the object. That is, if the object is jointly owned by both subjects, in that case, you're going to just use one apostrophe S. If they are two different objects when owned by two different subjects, use multiple apostrophe S's. For example, we went to my grandma and grandpa's house. There's one house, jointly owned, jointly possessed by grandma and grandpa, so we just use the one apostrophe S for them together. Let's say we're using two different cars, though. We took grandma's car and grandpa's car, grandma's and grandpa's cars, plural, out for a wild joyride. Notice right there, two different objects owned by two different subjects. We're going to use two different apostrophe S's there. For quotation marks, we use double quotes for any quoted material. So anytime you use a direct quote in an essay, for instance, we use double quotes around it. Single quotes go around quotations inside of quotations. We'll look at that in an example in a moment there. You can introduce quotations with commas or colons, doesn't matter which. So for example, Carson writes, we've got this verb writes, that indicates we've got a quote coming up. In the words of Robson, now notice here, we've got another comma introducing another quote right here. Practice makes permanent. Quote inside of a quote gets those single quotation marks. Then we end the entire quote with that double quote again right there. Periods go inside of quotation marks. The rule is one dot in, two dots out. That's what it's all about. So periods and commas go inside of quotation marks. Semicolons and colons outside of quotation marks. As a reminder, we did teach apostrophes and quotation marks as two different lessons. You can find both of those lesson videos in our YouTube playlist once again. Mr. Hantek, MLHS. Like, comment, subscribe. Another thing that we've been focusing on all semester really is sentence structure. So comma splices, run-ons, and fragments. A comma splice occurs when a comma separates two independent clauses. To correct a comma splice, you've got some options. You can change the comma to a semicolon. You could add the appropriate fanboys conjunction. So for instance, Lionel Messi is the best, he is cool is a semicolon. Lionel Messi is the best, so he is cool. Lionel Messi is the best, semicolon, he is cool. Another option is simply to split it into two complete sentences. Lionel Messi is the best, period. Capital H, he is cool. That works too. Run-on sentences have the same exact fixes, but this is what occurs when sentences are not properly punctuated or when sentences pack in too much information and need to be split into multiple sentences. 4 possible fixes for run-ons. One is to split into multiple sentences. I highly recommend that for sentences that pack in too much info. You could use a semicolon to separate independent clauses. So if we had Lionel Messi is the best, he is cool, no punctuation, we could use a semicolon all the same. Comma fanboys conjunction to separate related independent clauses works as well. Lionel Messi is the best, so he is cool. Lastly, you can restructure the sentence entirely. Creating dependent clauses to clarify confusing sentences is another way that it could work. Another way to think of that is simply rephrase confusing or lengthy sentences or wordy sentences. Some of you, in your essay writing, write run-on sentences that are simply wordy. It's not because of punctuation rules, but they're just kind of phrased in such a way that it makes them feel too long. That would be a great fix for them, is to restructure them, use dependent clauses to clarify meaning, split into multiple sentences, and so on. The last sentence structure error we talked about were sentence fragments. Fragment is a piece of something. Sentence fragment occurs when a sentence lacks a subject, lacks a verb, or does not make sense by itself. Those are the 3 things you need to have a complete sentence. Thus, to correct a fragment, you have to identify what it's missing. You either need to add a necessary subject. So if my sentence said something like, jingling all the way, right? There's no subject there. My sleigh was jingling all the way. A necessary verb, if my sentence said something like, a beautiful waterfall surrounded by stones, something like that, needs a verb, and that the beautiful waterfall was surrounded by stones. Or just rework the sentence entirely if it doesn't make any sense. If I had a sentence that said, because I have a lot of money, something like that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I need to rework it. Maybe by adding an independent clause. I'm rich because I have a lot of money. Again, making stuff up. Notice the example once again. Running down the stairs is a fragment because it's missing a subject. The kids were running down the stairs completes it. In our next lesson, we'll cover agreement, pronoun antecedent, and subject-verb agreement. So stay tuned for that. Once again, I'll have a practice test coming your way. It's an ungraded practice test coming your way to help you prep for the final test next week. Back to our lesson. So once again, I've got some work to do today, and so do you. Work on your analysis essay outline. I want to see that you have a plan for your analysis of the short story, poem, song, or art piece that you selected. I'm going to be working this afternoon on grading. So I will update my gradebook, make sure that everything's in, and I'll start contacting you if you have missing work. One thing I would note, since the format was changed to optional to come into the school building for extra help, I'd just like to remind you that I do have a set of netbooks in my classroom, so if you'd like some extra help, you can come in the morning to get some help from me. I do have computer access, so you can use a netbook in my classroom if you like. I would especially like to use that time to help you catch up on missing work on a one-on-one basis.